This video here, or this series of videos here, has to be a world alert. Has to be a worldwide alert, an emergency. An emergency on every single level you can possibly push it on. The information I'm about to bring you is completely unknown to humanity. Somebody does know. Somebody has to know. Because there's something driving behind this. Something much higher than we're aware of. This is going to be very complicated stuff, very hard to take on board for most people in the whole world. But people have to see it for what it is and see the evidence and see what we're seeing all over the world right now. And it's very important you take on board every word I'm about to say. There isn't a scientist or professor in the world or any person chosen, any prophet, anyone in the world bringing this information here. I'm going to put every piece together in the picture that you need to see. We're all confused at the moment and frustrated. We're going through a great shaking. Okay, a great shaking all over the world with a lot of information, a lot of confusion and a lot of frustration. Now, one of the most important things is there's also a lot of misinformation traveling. Okay, a lot of over-exaggeration, paranoia, stress, anxiety, a lot of worry. Now, mental disorder tablets and drugs is going through the roof. So people aren't coping too well. The use of drugs and mental disorder tablets has escalated very dramatically over the last 50 years. ADHD medication's gone up 36 times since 1994. Methamphetamine's gone up 5,000 times in production on the streets and into our public since 1980. A urine test was done in Australia by Tony Abbott, the Prime Minister, in 2016, and that was on the government's, authorities and the Defence Force. On mainstream media and every channel, it was exposed that 57% were positive to meth and 75% of people admitted to using it. Now, this is a world problem. It's not just Australia, it's around the whole world. Now, we first need to look at what's happening here. As the production of meth goes up, at exactly the same time, we see something else with ADHD medication. The first thing I need to expose to you is something very critical. Meth was first reached as a bioweapon in 1895 by the kamikaze, the Japanese. Hitler used this product in the war, and the military also used this to stop Hitler. I disclosed a video about 3-4 months ago, my timelines, with the CIA full exposure of this and the full release press conference. Okay, about all these things. So they've admitted to that through CIA and released those documents. Okay, so we need to focus on something very important. Methamphetamine is also magic potions used by gnostic masterminds through human history. You heard of the old stories about gnostic masterminds, okay? They were messing with magic, right? Looking into crystal balls and predicting the future and using magic potions. And magic potions is drugs, laboratorial drugs. That's what they are. So they used them all the way back in our human history, okay? And Nimrod, known as Gilgamesh in Babylon, he used a very powerful, potent magic potion. And this was methamphetamine, okay? And it had graphene oxide gold, which is a higher conduction. It's very hard to get meth with graphene oxide gold, but it does exist. It's just not in our public. It's a very high conductor. So what you have to understand is it conducts to an outside influence in our reality. That's what Nimrod was doing with the Tower of Babel. He was going up to use this product to go into another dimension, okay, to another dimension that had a powerful influence on his reality, okay. You can see Satan or dark as very powerful and a light species with powerful power. And in the Egyptian days, the great gods of Egypt, Osiris, okay, he was resurrected from Nimrod. And he used exactly the same magic potion and exactly the same power, the great gods of Egypt. These magic potions goes into history in such a way that Nostradamus was a gnostic mastermind who was into magician stuff, okay? That's why he was not biblical and not seen as anyone biblical. Yet Nostradamus, okay, was using these magic potions and could predict the future. And he predicted most things perfectly. One of his biggest predictions was that in the time of the 45th president in the 21st century will be the unreleasing and unveiling of the 27-year war against the Antichrist. Now, what's astonishing about this is that Nostradamus went through special teaching and hidden knowledge. And he was designed by a church called Nostradamus, who was teaching people to master their mind as gnostic masterminds to see into the future. So that was created by Nostradamus Church. The Bible warning says that the oldest church, acting Jerusalem church, will burn as one of the first warnings in the very end times. That church was the church of Nostradamus that burned in 2019. When you combine this with Nostradamus, Nostradamus predicted this moment in the time of the 45th president in the 21st century. And that's the sign, okay? That's the evidence, because we felt the darkness coming over the planet in 220. Now, the IPP scientists put up a New York climate clock on that date in 220 with a 7-year countdown to 227. The New York climate clock you can see on YouTube. It says this represents the most important number placed in the center of our society. At this time, we're going to a major collapse around this time. Okay, now for this reason, you must pay attention. It's predicted that the planet's going to collapse for 20 years. Now, Trump put in Agenda 247, Agenda 47. WF has put in Agenda 247, Agenda 47 with Klaus Schwab and the Great Reset. Okay, it talks in the deep documents about a 20-year collapse from 227 to 247 on documents by the IPP design reports and every document in the world. So we have to pay attention to these things. Whistleblowers from NASA who was into the looking glass. The looking glass is a huge crystal ball. And they used to take methamphetamine, right, and a very powerful, potent one called MBK, methylbenzoketone, in order to see into the future and predict the future. They saw the future in timeline 1, timeline 2. 2 different dimensions. 2 different timelines. Now, the whistleblowers are only given certain information. They're not the people that was in the glass. They're not the ones that saw it. They are people who are seen into the looking glass or into the future, these dimensions, and predict the future. And the predictions that's been going on now for the last 50 to 60 years has been uncannily exactly on the money. There have been certain people with visions and dreams that's unfolded ever since. A lot of these visions and dreams has been creating a lot of movies in the last 40 years. And in those movies, there are hidden codes that only a gnostic mastermind can see, because he knows the past and he knows the future. He has dimensional thinking, remote viewing, and tunnel vision. The picture that tells you 1,000 words, the light bulb idea, is where the most intelligent people think with. The biggest masterminds in the world has a different way of thinking. They use the light bulb idea, the picture, the tunnel vision, the outside influence in their reality. The picture that tells them 1,000 words, they see the future, they see the past. And only a just Gnostic mastermind who knows how to mastermind can do that. Now, he has an ability that no human being on earth can even comprehend or understand. It's way over and above and beyond our mindset. Now, the thing is this. This is the thing. No one's ever told you this, but we can all use this ability. Our placebo effect, our face system, is 10 times more powerful than our reality that we live in. So what this means, it means we're trapped in our mind, right? The trap, the mind trap we live in is not this one. We think critically all the time with a high IQ. mentally and psychologically. 95 to 99% of the time. We can't use this. And there's a reason why we can't use it. But this is your natural organic motor skills. This is your organic way of thinking. To think outside the mind, not with the mind. It limits you. And it has an effect in your daily life in ways you have no comprehension of. That's going to show you just how stupid we really are without you even realizing it. So I'm going to show you a few things that's critical. But also with this, I'm going to show you some very important things that are happening all around the world. The number one thing I need to make you understand very clearly is this. Your placebo effect is 10 times more powerful than your reality. Now, I want to tell you something. We have scientific and biological evidence for this, right? And it's being moved with the World Transformation Movement, with the top biologists and scientists in the world. We found the cure for every single thing I'm about to expose. That means we have the cure. We literally have a cure. But people are not interested because they think they know better and trapped in the mind. People think they know everything and they all think they're awake in the world. They all think they know better than everyone. They conquer and divide, they debate, or they live in a pedestal in their own comfort zone, or they can't handle the truth, can't face it, can't deal with it. They do not know what they do. They do not know any better. They think they're highly intelligent with a high IQ and sophisticated with knowledge, like the homotech babies, the homotech humans that aren't human anymore, okay? Because they think they're robots. They think they're super highly intelligent and compared to a gnostic mastermind. A gnostic mastermind can use 100% of its brain. Any other species on Earth can only use 7 to 9 at any given time. They don't use any more than 40% of their brain throughout their whole life, but they can only use 7 to 9% at any given time with a high IQ. Einstein is one of the highest records on Earth with Steve Hawkins, and they could only use 11% of any given time. A gnostic mastermind is not controlled by the mind or trapped in the mind. He has a far, far greater ability outside this world, outside this mind, dimensionally, with perceptions in ways that people cannot understand because they're literal and they live in the 5 sense world. They live in the 5 sense world. They analyze, and get analyzed. Judge, and be judged. Argue, debate, and divide. Think they know everything. Use every one of these tools they're programmed and engineered into on reverse psychology. That makes them damn good at what they do, but in fact not intelligent. Recorded on documents. Recorded on documents. We have become inverted. Okay, we think back to front on reverse psychology, and we do think we know everything, but we have no idea how far this has gone. So I'm going to bring a lot of information into this video, right? Today, in 96 countries all over the world, you have a thing called, on the mainstream media, CNN News, all over the mainstream, they call it the Havana Syndrome. Now, the Havana Syndrome is people losing their motor skills, dizzy spells, feeling pins and needles all over their body with frequencies, okay? Getting dizzy spells, they're getting amnesia, insomnia, okay? And vertigo. Now, when you get deeper about this, you will have a look at the vaccinated people, okay? And people dropping, okay? You see they're losing their motor skills and go into a zombie state and drop, okay? All of a sudden, it's like the power goes out. And all of a sudden, there's no power and drops, right? What you're also seeing in a lot of videos around the world is you're seeing a lot of long, big worms being pulled out of people, right? And a lot of physicians all over the world is talking about this long myocarditis, this long worming, blood clotting, and it's like a rubber substance. Now, we're going to talk about this, okay? We're going to talk about 3 types of parasites that's been exploding in our population for the last 60 years. And where we start seeing this is in methamphetamine. Methamphetamine is 1/3 iodine crystals. Iodine crystals is where iodine graphene oxide sheets come from. Iodine graphene oxide hydroxide gel in the current experiment, which is messenger mRNA technology. So it's messenger, self-explanatory. It's registered in every patent in the world as an electronic magnetic device. Now, what we're seeing in lab researchers all over the world in both COVID-19 and the vaccination is they found a particle, a lipid particle, a protein that keeps growing in both. This particle, okay, we have personally got people here and nutritionists and people who do blood tests, right? I'm linked to very important people. We've done a research on 126 vaccinated people, and they have the same parasites with the same lipid particle, and I'm an expert at this. This parasite and the same particle we're seeing, it's the same particle we started to see in meth 30 years ago, right? They call it melanoma or something, right? A worm crawling under people's skin, and they were getting itchy, and they couldn't get those worms out, okay? They thought they were wires, like electronic wires inside their skin, but they weren't. They kept moving and running away. They were like a hard rubber. If you look at what I'm saying now, it's the same thing. Worming tablets was a big thing, very big thing. Now, I'll give you an idea from experience. My wife, Marion, has MS. MS has been exploding since 1980, and MS is something fairly new. So is ADHD. What we find with both MS and ADHD is we find parasites. What we find in cancer exploding out of control, gone up 18 times since 1960, is parasites. The same parasites. What we see in blood clots, myocarditis, cancer, mental disorders, gene defects all over the world, is our body starts going corruption, corrosion, collusion, from the same adverse effects, from exactly the same thing. There's studies done with a zombie virus, okay, with peer reports. People in hospital totally lost their motor skills, can't function. That's why they call it the zombie virus. The zombie virus is in every COVID document involved and being prepared for the zombie virus. FEMA camps with body coffins all over America. Set up all over the world, body coffins everywhere. An expectation of people being lost by 50 to 70% by 225 to 227 on every document in the world. Only 5 to 7% in the indigenous people and some of the third world countries. Why? Because they can think instinctively. We think mentally. We think mentally and psychologically with a high IQ like robots and can't use our natural organic motor skills, but they can. So that's why they're going to have a less adverse effect, because they can think instinctively the most. The Western civilization, 93% of 300,000 people die from stress-related diseases every day. 93% take drugs and numb themselves because they can't cope. 93% has parasites in their blood. 93%'s got 7,000 defective genes. 93% live in brain-locked denial and a species beyond the point of return, declared by Jeremy Griffin in the top documents in the world. 93% a species who live in denial and declared today to be beyond the point of return. They didn't listen back then. They didn't listen in the 70s. They didn't listen in the 80s. They didn't listen in the 90s. When it was world news all over the world in 1999, they all laughed about it because they were gone then with the syndrome, with the mental behavior, where they only believe in the voice in their mind that controls them. Trapped in their mind. They don't listen to anything. They don't believe in anything. It's on every report from the IPSI reports. Every single doctor, every single process, and every single thing's been exposed. By 1999, when they realized the world was that mental and that crazy already in the syndrome, okay, things became 5 times worse and accelerating 7 times faster by 2019. Everyone's in brain lock denial, a species of total denial. That's why this book is written, a species of total denial. Since then, they've been feeding you with whatever information you want to believe in. They can't tell you the truth that they try, right? Because you don't believe in it. You conquer and divide and come into your own conclusion with reasoning. What do you think does that? Your mind. What do you think's in your mind? Rel. What? Rel. Rel goes into ancient history. Parasites being used in people's minds to control their minds, like robots and zombies. That's what Nimrod created. The Rel gets into your skin and becomes parasites and the worms that you're seeing and becomes the zombie virus, right? Okay, the zombie virus, right? and the body snatchers. The body snatchers is exactly the same reports from the same peer reports. Zombies, as if their soul's gone, so they call it body snatching. Well, some body snatchers are walking around, which means they have a different soul in them. And that's hard to fathom, but they can pretend they're like you, and they can snatch your body, and they can also resurrect. You see, there are people in this world that knew resurrection and how to do this for many years, and they run this world. They're the ones that know. Consider something. I'm just asking, consider. Bill Gates sits at the UN as the most powerful man in the world who doesn't own a country. The 10 officers at Geneva with Garvey at the top is Bill Gates. The CEO classified for the worldbank.org, the CEO for WF, worldbank.org is owned by Bill Gates with a COVID plan until March 2025. If you read the documents. The Prophet Harari, as Obama calls him, the prophet born in Israel, is the architect for the fourth industrial revolution, who says we're going to create what Hitler's going to create, what Hitler tried to create, with mRNA technology, and we're going to create our own God, and we have the divine power of creation and destruction. Klaus Schwab uses the same words. They built the CERN machine, 27 kilometers long, where Apollos used to be, the god of creation and destruction, with Shiva statue out the front, the god of creation and destruction. Now, Bill Gates, at 24 years old in 1980, became the most powerful, richest man in the world at 24. He was asked a very serious question. Bill, how did you think of all this that no man on earth ever thought of, with computers, microchips, right? Memory banks, and the whole system? How did he think of all this with computers and bring all this into reality? Okay, and then he was told, how did you think of all this, Bill? You didn't have an education, you flunked, you couldn't read and write, and you were illiterate. How did you think of this? Bill Gates smirked at 24 years old and said, whatever I can't think of, I'll hire the person that can. Now, you have to stop and ask yourself a very serious question here. At 24 years old, becomes the most powerful man in the world. He goes into court for capitalism and novelization and molding things, the most sophisticated way ever designed in human history. And he beat every court case. They couldn't convict him. He's been responsible for vaccination that has hurt so many people in India and Africa that's tried to take him to court. He can't be convicted. A whistleblower from WHO said he cannot be convicted in any way, shape or form. He has 100% immunity to anything. Now you have to stop and ask yourself a very serious question. Who is Bill Gates? Who is this man with this kind of power? There are another handful of people that are exactly the same as him I can identify. Exactly the same. They have the same type of ability. But he's the number one man here, no matter how you look at it. He has an ability to master his mind. He's a gnostic mastermind. Only a gnostic mastermind knows the tools he's using. Only a gnostic mastermind can identify this. He doesn't have one certificate or diplomacy in any field at all. No medical certificates, no diplomacy, not a single piece of paper that gives him any qualification to be in the position he's in, with any tool. Yet he runs the whole thing with mRNA technology. Right, with mRNA technology. He holds up the book of statistics as his favorite book in the world. If you read the book of statistics, it says how to manipulate the whole human population with vaccinations, mRNA technology. Now, when you study this book and realize law and order documents were put in on reverse psychology for education system by the Rockefellers 300 years ago with a chaos document this thick. When you go into the details of the chaos documents written 300 years ago, it's the same book revised. Now, if you go into the full details of this and you understand human history, it's exactly the same tools used in Babylon. Right, to create hybrids, clones, half man, half animal, and we're doing that today. We're starting to create human and animal clones all the way back in 2011. He's the key man on circuitry, and your DNA, 1 centimeter, holds 13 billion years of data, mRNA. He's the key man on your DNA and data, and how to mold things, and how to reset your DNA system genetically. Now, we used to take worming tablets back in the 60s and the 70s because it stopped worms and parasites, which is called the REL. 60 years ago, we used to know people that remembered their previous life, 1, 2, or 3, or 4 of them, so they knew resurrection. Osiris resurrected from Nimrod, and then resurrected and we're seeing Horus. In the Bible, John the Baptist came out of prison because in prison, he went through something extraordinary where he broke free from amnesia and discovered who he was. And then he came out as Elijah. He's known as John the Baptist, but it was Elijah that came back. A special teacher brought Jesus into the world for 7 years removing the Bible. That person came back as Enoch. There were 2 witnesses. They were both resurrected. Okay, they were both went up in the fiery chariot. And the fiery chariot we know today is the Tic Tac UFOs, who disappear and reappear in front of our face into different dimensions and parallel worlds, reported by the UFO disclosure worldwide. We don't know where they come from, inner space or the outer space, or the space in between, because we see them disappear right in front of our eyes and reappear. And we're just beginning to learn about different parallel worlds and different dimensions. And the most important place to learn about that is the books of Enoch. You can only get 2 books of Enoch, but he wrote more than 100 books that's being suppressed from us. More than 100. Now, Gnostic Mastermind is an old men of renown, wisdom and knowledge, and they're usually very old, much older than what you are. Much, much older than any human being known on earth in your civilization. I know people 170 years old that are here today. I know people died not long ago that was 500 years old. Nostradamus is one of the biggest deceptions ever created in human history. He was 500 years old. Okay? You'll never find that on a document. But trust me, I know. There are people on this planet here today that's designed very specifically. Okay? But there's no other on the planet like me that can put all these pieces together. When you look at the human conditioning is the voices in the mind, ultimately designed from extinction. We're trapped in the mind with voices in our mind. We conduct with a certain frequencies, and we conduct with graphene oxide, which is inside all your preservative foods, all mental disorder tablets, drug delivery systems, zinc, iron, magnesium, vitamin C, DB12, okay, all placebo effect medication, placebo effect medication. Placebo effect medication proves that if we think instinctively with our face system, we can repair things with an electronic magnetic device. Now, a child between 0 and 7 is highly intelligent and can think instinctively. Between 3 and 7, he thinks outside the mind. He thinks with a light bulb idea, just like a mastermind does. He comes into the world with this ability. Because between 3 and 7, he can move in a computer game and mastermind a computer game 7 times faster than I can. He's pumped with adrenaline and an accretion in adrenochrome, right, to oxidize his blood because he's pumped with adrenaline to be alert, alive, awake, and aware. And that's like a meth effect because you create some molecules with the conduction of graphene oxide from his pineal gland, which is a crystal. It's iodine crystal. It's a conductor. Your gut feeling survival mode is a very preservation mode for life that activates the molecules with your placebo effect, which is your face system, to think instinctively and think outside the mind. You create 2 molecules of immortality that repairs your genes. You create 280,000 molecules and chemicals to do that with, like a chemical factory, but you don't know how to use it because you think mentally. You have 1.4 volt in every body cell, and you have billions of them. So you have billions of volts in your body, and you don't even know it because you don't know how to use them. So we have an ability that's so far beyond our understanding that we don't know. We don't know any better. However, a child between 0 and 7 thinks instinctively and can repair his genes, DNA, and his immune system and the whole 9 yards. Okay, when he thinks instinctively. He can master his mind and respond 7 times faster than an adult can. With the light bulb idea, with the vision that tells him 1,000 words that guides him, because he has faith in that. He can see the picture and he knows how to respond to it 7 times faster. That's why Bruce Lee could respond 7 times faster than you could think. Let's take a look at Bruce Lee for a moment. Let's take a look at genuine evidence. No movie stunts, genuine facts. Bruce Lee could move 7 times faster than anyone could think or respond. We can take anyone who's car stimulation accidents and we know something. We know that only 1 person out of 1 billion can respond fast like that in a stimulation, a car accident. He can respond before he thinks. The rest goes down the line with different adverse effects, with different reactions, and some go in shock. Many go in shock and hits that accident head on with no reaction whatsoever, in shock. Completely stripped from their biological genes to use the natural organic molecules. But the one that can respond 7 times faster, he's in natural tact. Those people are the last human beings born on Earth, and there's only a handful left. They have the best DNA system in the world and 27 times more powerful DNA system or immune system than we do. Our immune system is the same as a vaccination because their immunity system is 27 times more powerful than our vaccination and our immunity. They don't have any mental disorders, gene defects, blood clots, myocarditis, worms, parasites, RAL, or any single one of these problems. Why do we? That's the question. Why don't they? Why do we? Because they're the most instinctive human beings on Earth. They can use their instincts and think 95 to 99% of the time with their natural organic molecules instinctively. They only use their mathematical view of 1 to 5% to work things out. The IQ is based on 98% memory, so in your memory box. We use that 95 to 99% of the time in 5 sense and negative fields. So we live in a 5 sense world. 5 senses. So we don't know any better because we don't know how to use this. But a child did. A child also created the accretion of adrenochrome, right, and oxidization in the blood to conduct with his body cells, so he could feel the outside influence that gave him this reality that has a profound effect on his reality from an outside influence, from another dimension outside the mind. He didn't think with the mind because he wasn't programmed and he didn't have voices in the mind. He hasn't been educated yet, so he's not stupid yet. He's not stupid yet, right? He's not stupid like the whole world is. You see, one thing people can't stand is the truth. But why? Why? If it's a liberation that breaks you free, then why do people go into brain-locked denial and become a species of denial? Why don't they want to know anything? Good question. Really, really good question. You see, a child at 4 years old, when a stranger comes to the door, he runs to the corner in a heartbeat when it's a bad person. So does a dog. So their sixth sense to think outside the mind's working perfectly with their natural organic motor skills. They can feel the truth in a heartbeat with adrenaline. In a heartbeat and respond like that. 7 times faster than an adult. So an adult will be manipulated in 10 seconds flat to believe that person is okay because he comes to his conclusion with reasoning that he's designed to. You go to education, right, to think critically with 2 voices in your mind that tells you to do it or don't do it, to think critically, to come to your conclusion with reasoning. And you're designed into that with an extremely high IQ, like a robot, to fact check, Google yourself, and like a zombie and totally stripped from your biological genes to use your natural organic motor skills. That's why when a child goes to school, the first thing is, oh, if you've got any guides in your head to guide you in that computer game, you have psychosis. You're just talking to yourself, son. You're just talking to yourself, son. So a psychiatrist says if you're talking to yourself, it's normal, and everyone else in the world says that. But if you talk to someone else, you have psychosis. You convey feelings to thoughts from the outside influence in your reality. You receive information from your body cells in low vibrations when you think negative on 5 senses. So when you think all the time, you're in low vibrations and don't use any of your power. So then you use an outside influence in negative fields, which also has power. And that conveys feelings to thoughts in your body cells and go to MR technology, which is your DNA, and conveys feelings to thoughts in your biological brain. And then you explain things to yourself in your own voice and your own language. And the voice tells you to do it and the other one tells you not to. And those voices are ultimately designed from extinction because it's not who you are. So when you sit down and think critically and you think you're highly intelligent with a high IQ, you are giving consent to these voices from an outside influence, because when you convey feelings to thoughts like this, then it doesn't matter who you're talking to. You're not talking to yourself. Yet 98% of Western civilization believes they're talking to self and gave consent to the voice in the mind because that's their God. When they don't have faith in their biological genes and they don't have faith in anything else and they have to think critically, they're asking for the outside influence in their reality. Should I do it, or shouldn't I do it? We call that the six, okay? The six is the dark. It's also the tree of knowledge of all things good and evil. So it sounds both good and evil, right? But it's only a personality. That's why it confuses you so much when you use this mindset, because it confuses you. It's just a personality. It's just an outside influence, and it's the force of the dark. That's why it's a six, the dark six. Yin and yang is the dark six and the light nine. Think with the nine is to cross over, not to think with the mind, but to think with the outside influence, your reality, with the light bulb idea, and that's completely stripped from you. We all live in the six. We're literal, we're psychological, right? We're egotistical, we're self-centered, right? Because we believe in our own mind. And now we took free will in our own hands, right? So far that we're just consuming the planet up and consuming 7 times more per capita with selfishness, right? And think 7 times more with the natural, and it's unnatural. It's an unnatural way of thinking, so therefore it's an artificial intelligence. And when it becomes an artificial intelligence with an outside influence, it becomes an alien invasion with an outside influence. That's the AI world. And you're in it, and you're part of it, and that's the mark of the beast, right? The mindset you live in, whatever wolf you feed, and that's a wolf you feed. With greed, power, temptation, money, and materials that all controls every aspect of your life that you warned about in Babylon, exactly how they'll get you. And they'll get you from modern technology with modern gadgets with images. And images what you like, which is what you idle the most. When you sit in front of a screen all day, you idle images. On modern technology with images warned in the Bible, you idle images. You spend more time on images than what you do with your best friends. And you lie to yourself about it because you're two-faced. You're completely two-faced, and you fight yourself every day in a psychological warfare with your own spirit. You don't even know it. You don't even know how this affects you because you live in brain-locked denial. You live in absolute brain-locked denial, right? And you don't understand what you have to gain because you keep doing it. So we used to take worming tablets back in the 60s to stop this. And we were normal human beings then. That's why they said the last human being was born in 1960. The last human being that can think instinctively was born in 1960 in the outback of Australia. The Western civilization, according to the documents by the Rockefellers, was stripped from their sixth sense in 1921. So they knew you had a face system for your education and stripped you from your sixth sense in 1921. And we can see that in the biggest mental health research ever conducted in global history. You're totally stripped from your sixth sense. So they succeeded at that, right? They succeeded at that very dramatically. Revelation, if you want to go to the book of Revelation, I'm only going to use this and the Bible as a reference to information. The sixth mass extinction, we stripped from the sixth sense for the sixth time. Because we were stripped the first time in Babylon, then the Pharaohs in Egypt, Persians, the Greeks, and then the Roman days. So this is the sixth time. This is the sixth time we stripped from the sixth sense in the sixth mass extinction. Revelation is the sixth mass extinction in the Bible. Every single thing that's happened in the sixth mass extinction for 120 years is warned in Revelation and the oldest Bibles and books and tablets and human history in the world. Right? Scholars have been following this for years. And when you look at things with precision and you think outside the mind in metaphor, you understand where the signs are. And when you can think methodologically and master your mind, you can see every sign in every single movie made and how that pertains to human history with the Hollywood spin, because imagination runs wild. When you think psychologically and mentally, the movie's made mentally like a Bible is. It's mental. It's written when it's mental in 5 senses. But the paragraph is where you feel with your gut feeling survival mode, right? Your instincts that gives you the vision that tells you 1,000 words. And that's your secret knowledge. That's coded in our movies as well. In all the superhero movies and how they pertain to human history, and also the DNA code within us, right? That's hereditary, right? Coded in our DNA, right? To decode the matrix and to recode the image, the Christ image, is 2 different codes. To decode the matrix is decoding from the voice in your mind from the tree of knowledge. Because we live at the tree of knowledge, literally, psychologically, mentally, in the 5 sense world, which is restricted and limited. And what's happening here is that we've become more mental since 1960, where we had mental disorders and gene defects and parasites that are causing everything, and blood cysts all over the world, and every single thing about bacteria collapsing in our stomachs all over with the immune system. And these round things growing inside us, we call proteins and lipid particles that keep on building. It's the worms you see pulled out of the right rubber we saw in melanomas in methamphetamine 30 years ago. Right? The same worms that we used worming tablets for 60 years ago and 50 years ago. So why did we stop the tablets? Why did we stop worming? Salt and salicylic salt's the most important molecules that you take. We used to take salt tablets every morning, every day. When we were human beings and we could think instinctively from the 60s, because I'm born in 60 in the outback of Australia, right? I come from the outback of Australia, 1960, and believe me, I've been with the oldest and wisest civilization in the world with its DNA, and my DNA tests exactly the same as them because I'm a genetic mastermind. I'm one of the biggest philosophers in the world, completely unrecognized, and you don't believe in it. Why don't you? I've got more information here that no scientist in the world is putting together. And you should ask yourself why I know things they don't know. Because I can put every single piece together with the fact that 150 years, we've also going into different frequencies and the shaman changing the planet with frequencies non-stop. So when you look at when we talk about the Havana virus all over the world, they don't know if it's frequencies, EMP pulse, and they can't find it out. They can't work it out. Listen, I have more than 10,000 people that are unreported with this. Okay, you see Angela made a video yesterday on my timeline, right? And it's one of these people, and she talks about it. There are thousands and thousands of people, right, that's affected by these things unreported. There's more than 2.2 billion adverse effects from the vaccinations, unreported. Unreported. Now, I'm working with nutritionists doing blood tests on people who are vaccinated, and these unreported people, we're seeing their blood, we're seeing the parasites, and I'm an expert with this because I first saw this 30 years ago and worked with the 2 top scientists from NASA on these projects. And you don't believe in it? I'm one of the most suppressed human beings on earth because I know more than anyone does. They work with the top scientists from Hitler creating this plan. I said, telling to your face, trust me, it goes into human history, and they were using everything from human history, from old books and tablets when they were creating these things. And I was involved in this #1 drug lord in the underground world in Australia, who was involved with sending 10-ton amphetamine to Amsterdam and 10-ton to Florida every single month for 14 years straight. The biggest operation in global history. Okay, I'm #1 drug lord in the front page of the paper and the biggest operation in Australian history. So you should pay attention to me. You really should. The testimony of drug lord Reborn is self-explanatory. I'm not like anyone else on the earth. I've left my mark on earth with information behind me, miracles and stunning things you'll never believe in. I'm recorded by the biggest think tank in the world as the biggest compromise situation they've ever dealt with. When I took over their top scientists and reversed their plan and caused them a headache, caused them a major headache, and became the most wanted for 3.5 years and became the biggest mastermind according to their documents. You should observe that because I know things no one in the world does. I can put pieces together like no scientist, no biologist in the whole world. But let me tell you something, right? Let me tell you something. When I bring down the highest death toll from drugs on the streets, highest gang killing, highest murder rates, all on the highest levels in 1996, by 2000, all 3 accounts is to the lowest in 30 years. I'm responsible according to the documents. Okay, I'm responsible for taking control of the 7 most powerful networks, making them work together, stop the violence, stop the murder rates, and reverse what happened, obviously, because with the drug that we created, stopped it. So we create an organic meth made from mayhem that doesn't have any of these adverse effects. From mayhem, organically made laboratory grade with no adverse effects, and reverse their plan, right? With evidence to prove it on every government documents. The statistics were the highest 96, the lowest by 2000 in 30 years. Now, listen carefully, because you have to. Right? I know something that no one knows, obviously. Working with the two top scientists from NASA involved in this, being able to take over them and reverse the plan, should get your attention no matter what. I wrote a book in 2004 and the authorities did everything to stop that book. They disarmed Australia with a Martin Bryan buyback plan and the taxpayers paid for the guns to be destroyed. We're on the front page of the paper on the 18th of January 2001 in the Brisbane Courier Mail with those guns in big black writing and every serial number checked out. That should get your attention because they covered it up. They stopped my book exposing all these things and covered it up. So there's a really big, heavy force behind this. When Tony Abbott exposed the urine test in 2016, he was pulled down by Peter Dutton on an immigration issue. Peter Dutton. Peter Dutton was promoted, right? Put Stuart Morrison promoted to the Home Affairs Minister. In ACT Canberra, his way of dealing with this was that he decriminalised using meth. They decriminalised it, and they're doing that all over America. Why are they decriminalising it? When you make 3,300 tonne in Mexico and you move 1 tonne into LA every day, and LA, right, brings in that much drugs and consume that much in America, the evidence is right there. Hitler created 14 products with synthetic opiates in it, okay? 2014 on Channel 7 News in Brisbane, Australia, it was exposed on the whole media, mainstream media across Australia, there are 14 synthetic products with opiates in the underground world. That's why Tony Abbott did the urine test, because we told them that this is Hitler's plan. We stopped it in 1996 to 2000. Then we went to prison for 10 years while they continued with the plan, and that's why we exposed this in 2014, and that's why the urine test was done. No one believed in us, and they still don't. No one believes in me at all. Now, what's ironic about this is this. So when this is exposed in 2014, and we stopped it back then, the capital manufacturing corner of the world for methamphetamine, where the meth come from, was southeast corner Queensland. But when this happened, right, to us in 2000, NASA had to move it down to Mexico. And they were doing cocaine. So they switched over the cocaine to meth by 2008 to implement this plan. And they've got 7 companies of pseudoephedrine where they put opiates inside the pseudoephedrine. And they've got one company that gets a contract all over the world for pseudoephedrine waste disposal. And they get paid to take waste disposal. They take 33 tonnes to Mexico. And then the producer there, and NASA set all this up. And that's why these things are going through the border down there with an open border, so the fentanyl can get in, because fentanyl is one of the products Hitler created. It's methamphetamine with opiates in it. And look at the zombies all over America with parasites. Now, if you look at the parasites and what it does to people, and they're turning into zombie states with fentanyl, you might understand a lot more about Hawaiian virus, the zombie as research, zombie virus with the peer reports, and have a look at this, and then have a look at the body snatchers, all the same thing. And it's all voices in the mind. It comes right down to one thing, the voice in the mind, the devil's in people's mind, ultimate design from extinction. Every one of these things match up with the REL people from back in human history. The REL is 3 different parasites, right, that goes in through magic potions, right, inside your mind, into your brain, where you can see the future if you're in the right mindset. Now, adrenochrome that a child creates from 0 to 7, he conducts an outside influence organically, right, in his natural moral state, to think instinctively and not to think with the mind. But when he goes to school, the wheels fall off from that little mastermind and he becomes like his mum and dad, brain dead stupid. So that when a stranger comes to the door, they get manipulated in 10 seconds flat and think they're Italian with a high IQ and come to the conclusion with reason, with voice in the mind. And when a good person comes to the door, a child and dog runs straight towards that person in a heartbeat with adrenaline, and a parent turns around and says, oh, the dog's taken to you too, I don't know why, with a high IQ to think she's telling you, and lost his sixth sense completely. And a child can feed it in a heartbeat with adrenaline with the same outside influence in reality, right? He has faith in his biological genes to think with his natural organic motor skills, and they work perfectly, but a parent's inverted completely on both situations. So when you go to school and you get inverted with voices in your mind to think critically, you go in reverse psychology, and that's why this happens, right? So you're not like Bruce Lee to master your mind, right? Now, Bruce Lee, let's get back to Bruce Lee for a moment. Didn't Bruce Lee, right, move 7 times faster than anyone could think? Yes. Okay, so we had to slow the cameras down to watch him move, correct? Yes. Now, what do we know in real facts? We know Bruce Lee could have a little blow about this far. He could move his fist this far, just bang. He shuts his eyes and bang, this far. When he does that, he had the power to lift a person nearly double his body weight, right? Levitated into mid-air, and also levitated through mid-air 9 to 12 feet into a swimming pool. This was tested over and over on many occasions. He had the power to lift someone double his body weight with a blow this much. Just bang, right? Just bang, right? And he lifted that far into midair, right? 9 to 12 feet back into a swimming pool. Now, you want to tell me anyone can do that with that kind of power? Because it's not his muscles. He was very small. Tone, yes, but he didn't have that kind of power. Bruce Lee played table tennis with a pair of nunchucks with an expert, one of the top players in the world. Table tennis with a pair of nunchucks. And when he played, he beat him. Over and over and over, he beat him with a pair of nunchucks. The precision was meticulous, perfect. How? Bruce Lee could stand there with his eyes completely shut with 7 black belt karates around him. With his eyes shut, looking down at the ground, and he knew every blow coming and could block every blow coming. He could block every single blow with his eyes wide shut because he could think instinctively and think outside the mind and see from the outside vision and feel every move through his third eye with his eye wide shut, where you feel things with your instincts. That's your body cells. With the outside influence with the atmosphere, right? That's your universal language. When we came to Australia 250 years ago, we killed all the black people because when we got there, why don't you listen to me? This is what happened to the British when they got there, okay? They spoke Aboriginal, okay? But when you think critically and the voice tells you to do it, they became that voice. They knew how to use the outside influence and use it so powerful that they became the voice in your mind and said, get off our land, you're not welcome here, in English. And they couldn't speak English. And they thought, they had voices in their mind. They thought, what's going on? What's going on? They thought they were demonic and killed them. It's written on 5 books. So they could use that ability, right? Some of the warriors were shot 6, 7, 8 times and kept resurrecting. They had the resurrection tools. When we talk about the Bible and we talk about the Tic Tac UFOs, the biggest UFO disclosure in the world hidden from you is Pine Gap Area 51 Australia. That's where the quantum computer is. That's where NSA is. That's where CIA holds the NA quantum computer. 56 floors down. Wycliffe Well is where most of the Tic Tac UFOs is in the whole world. The orbs of light called the Min light in Australia is the orbs of light that's the same as the Bible. They went to Enoch, the kings, and they have a full-on relationship with them. But only the last human beings born on earth that's off the grid has a full-on relationship and calls them the Watchers, just like the Bible does. They've been with him for thousands of years because they live by the one-yard rule equally and their natural organic molecules. And when they give a relationship with nature, their food grows 10 times more nutritional value with 10 times more fruit because they're connected with the right fruit. They bear the right fruit. They have a genuine relationship with their sixth sense. And their sixth sense they use in water, and water is your body cells, 75% water, 93% of your DNA is water. So when they have a connection with water like this as well, their body cells repairs the genes in the immune system because they're connected like a child is and master their mind. And a child's secretion with adrenochrome dies between 7 and 15 and they can't conduct. So they rely on every product they conduct with, and it gives them an outside influence from another conduction of their natural organic motor skills because they can't conduct with their natural organic motor skills with accretion. So they have to take products they consume for their food products designed into this to conduct to an outside influence on reverse psychology with voices in their mind. That's why the CERN machine says they open up into a dimension with a personality. That's why Elon Musk says they're summoning the beast. That's why they're saying they're creating their own gods with an outside influence of reality, like Hitler tried to create, like Nimrod did. And who do you think the man's all about doing all this? So when you go into zombie viruses, body snatching, right? And the one virus all over the world that's affecting millions of people, you can see the animals all over the world going around. You can see birds dropping out of the sky, losing their motor skills, losing their sixth sense, losing their ability because everyone's stuck in a 5-sense world. Nature and fauna is collapsing between 40 and 90% nutritional value. Oxygen's dropped 13% and water's dropped 22%. This has been escalating for 60 years. When we look at the Bible and we look at the trumpets in the Bible, at the very end, let me explain something to you. When you understand the prophets given here in the Bible, you also understand something else. The post-human stage in Revelation was declared in 1999. We're in post-human stage, no longer human. Escalating non-stop, declared today to be beyond the point of return. Going over the cliff. You're watching it now in all these adverse effects with 3 parasites. The rel, you're watching getting taken out of people in vaccination and having a zombie apocalypse where they're losing their motor skills. Now, you can go and get a DNA study done right now with Unifed anywhere in the world, or Long Life, and you can see the parasites in your blood and then you're stripping your 6th sense, because it's happening to every person in the world. Everyone's deceived into this to one degree or another. Those that think instinctively will tune out of the program, and no weapon formed against you can prosper. That's what's said in the Matrix, and that's what the Bible says. I combine both. Those that think instinctively will tune out of the program, that's what Keanu Reeves on about. In the Matrix, that's what he is. With an outside influence on his reality, where he beats the death experience and can respond 7 times faster because the rest of the world are robots and zombies. Yesterday morning, something happened, okay? And it's very important that you listen very carefully because you don't realize this. 3 of my people following me here, okay, who's learning a lot from me and thinks they're really awake, thinks that nothing's affecting them. They've learned so much from me, which they have. They've come an extremely long way back into their natural organic motor skills. And some people learning from me and going back to their primal state with these tools correctly, but most people don't. But I want to give you an idea that 3 of these people that's changed so much and starting to use the natural organic motor skills fell into a bad rabbit hole yesterday. And I want to show you something for a reason, because you do not realize something. Look at the human behavior all over the world. Just stop and take a look at the human behavior. I know you're dealing with your own backyard, conquer and divide. I want to show you what's happening to every family, every loved one, every friend, every person in the world that they're totally oblivious to. First of all, we have one of the freedom fighters out here called Charlie Ward. I think you're familiar with Charlie Ward. Charlie Ward has lied more than 500 times with dates and numbers, right? Driving the Patriots, driving the Trump, driving all this freedom fighting, and everyone thinks he's one of the biggest freedom fighters in the world. He lies non-stop and gets it wrong non-stop. He never once apologizes for spreading misinformation, never once. He got behind Jason Sugar the other day with the October the 4th alert, right? That was going to hurt everyone with frequencies. Every platform in the whole world, every top speaker in the whole world fell right into this with millions of people across the planet. Everyone's sharing the videos all over the world. What was going to happen? I was the only one that put out videos to say these people are in the wrong mindset. They suffer the syndrome, and I'm going to prove it to you. All these freedom fighters in the whole world that everyone's following, like Laurie Ladd, Ismail Perez, I'm going to show you they're controlled by a parasite, and they're controlling the mind, and they're trapped in their mind, and they're all the freedom fighters. They lie all the time and get everything wrong because they worry all the time, and they're controlled by voices in the mind, and they're all chosen by gods that are not the same God because of the mindset they live in, trapped in their mind. And I'm going to prove it. And I proved it. I was the only one that was right. Now, Charlie Ward made a video yesterday, and this video says, you know, you've got to stop criticizing people and running people down, and you've got to stop behaving like that because, you know, we're doing the best what we can. This is how he responds to lying to the whole world. This is how this person responds when he lies to thousands of people all over the world. He says you have to stop criticizing him and stop behaving. He's doing what he can. We are the patriots. We are leading this fight. They're leading this fight with the biggest deception in the world that puts people into panic and driving fear at the same time, because they will not face their responsibility or their action and do the right thing and apologize, because their followers shares the information, and the information that was shared by Jason Sugar and Charlie Ward, people, for thousands of people that I've said many times, do not listen to them. They keep lying. They keep listening to them. I have 10,000 followers here with me out of 2.5 million that keeps listening to them because they're brain dead and they have the parasites and they're trapped in their mind. So they keep following the same person that keeps lying. And I find it so astonishing that they live in a bubble in a comfort zone. And you see Laurie Ladd, every single week she says, oh, Did this happen to you last night? I'll tell you how to deal with it. I'll tell you how to work this out. Every week she goes through some kind of sensitive emotional feeling with stress and anxiety, and then tells you she's going to tell you how to deal with it. When she can't, she keeps falling in the same rabbit hole over and over and over. I find it astonishing that people follow her, keep following her. I find it astonishing that people keep following someone like that can't cope in life. I find it so astonishing that she can convince and manipulate the whole world that she's someone chosen who's special from a galaxy federation with Commander Astar, right, in some kind of mindset molded on psycho programs through social media platform. And she can convince so many people to follow her and sit there in a bubble, in a comfort zone, so nervous and so spineless, and doesn't talk about any truth at all. Just a massive deception in the world. Because that's how the world works, with love and compassion through the mind. And you can see that when she backed up Jason Sugar and put out the same warning as they did and urged to people that she got a message herself that Jason's correct. She got a message from the outside influence on her spirit guides that told her this is going to happen. And they were wrong. So her guides were wrong too and deceived her, right? Deceived the whole world. And they're freedom fighters. So I want to explain something to you about 3 people that's very close to me and been watching me for a long time, and good people, okay? And I want you to know what's happening every day out there to your family, loved ones, and friends, and people around you. Maren comes from a normal family, okay? And Maren, like many of you, will completely confirm this is happening around your family. They can't function anymore. Family values, Christmas values, love and compassion, you know, the barbecues, right? The Sabbath day is about family, lovers, and friends, feast and wine. The Sabbath day is about sing and dance, feast and wine with family, lovers, and friends. How many people do you think have family feasts with their friends and families now? It's gone. Those values are gone. How many people has genuine, moral, compassionate conversation, intellectual conversations with loyalty, honor, respect, moral restoration, encouragement in their family? The care factor's died for a long time. It's been dying every time, and it's spinning out of control. Right? People can't tolerate each other for any more than about 15 minutes and want to go back home or go and watch TV or something or go on social media platform. They can't even sit down with their family anymore. Very few people can. So disconnected from neighbours, loved ones and friends, they can't even talk to people in the streets anymore. Children are brought up with an iPhone, right, at 4 years old like a cotton wool baby. Sexually frustrated by the time they're 8 years old, completely sex frustration, right, and agendas is the biggest exploding thing in the last 40 years. Particularly in the last 10 to 20. Particularly in the last 10 to 20. Completely insane. Right? Completely insane. People don't even know who they are anymore. They don't even know their agendas anymore. Because they're frustrated with an iPhone at 4 years old, right? And they get frustrated by 8, right, sexually, record on documents. And they think it's their best friend by the time they're 12. And every millennium spends more time on a screen than they do with their best friends and family. And they live in brain locked and all about the same time and give their kids an iPhone to completely polarize them as well. And they have the most defective genes in the world and completely strip them their sixth sense and their biological genes to use their natural organic molecules. And they're starting to do that to the kids at 4. At 4, programming them at 4 years old, 3, 4 years old. And the parents are doing it. They're programming their children like education at 4 years old. What bush do you think controls them to do that? To make them like robots at 4 years old so they can completely strip from their biological genes and their natural organic molecules with the outside influence. They can't even see what they're doing. They're hurting their children, you know, as young as 2 years old in some generations, polarizing them, programming from 2 years old. They become highly sophisticated with IQ and controls the whole world this way. But it's only a personality. It's only personality. When they think this way, it's selfish, egotism, and only a personality. And it's not saying they're evil, because it's not evil, but it's only a personality. Right? And some people do turn very evil, but it's only a personality. It's emotionless. They're designing people to be emotionless. And if they're completely emotionless, they won't have any stress-related diseases neither. Everyone's confused in between. Everyone's two-faced in between. But some people are totally emotionless. And that's the people that run this world that knows how to resurrect. Because those who think instinctively have the divine power, creation, destruction. Right? They have the divine power from both fields. Right? And you can take your pick. But everybody else in the world is put into a mind trap. They live in a mind trap without realizing it. But these people that run the world, like Bill Gates and people like me, we know exactly what's going on. We can see things from a whole different point of view and put every piece together. Now, I'm telling you right now, Plato's the greatest philosopher of all time. Every philosopher ever since, only been footnotes of Plato. Plato goes into 16 books, and Jeremy Griffiths wrote many books who study this for 45 years. I urge that you listen to Jeremy Griffiths and understand this biologically, the biological explanation for the human conditioning. The voices in your mind, ultimate sign from extinction, declared on documents. And when you understand yourself biologically correct, he gives the best explanation in the world, and is a front leader of this. The greatest book ever written in human history is the book Freedom, the cure of the human condition that's going to save humanity. Now, people that follow me, majority just goes into brain lock denial, don't think they need to do anything, they know everything. They're the ones that fail the most. All of them do, every single one of them. Very few people are getting this through their thick skull. And getting through the thick skull through the 5 senses is 1,000 times more difficult than what you realize, because they live in denial, a species of denial. And they can't think outside the mind. They don't have that ability. They don't even have faith in their own biological genes to use their natural genetic makers. They don't have faith within themselves. So they have to learn to think differently, because they don't have faith in themselves. And they have amnesia in psychosis. Psychosis declared all over the world. They have psychosis because they think mentally. So when they think mentally, it's psychosis. With voices in the mind, it's also a psychological warfare just by design on every document, through social media platforms, televisions. It's all designed for psychological warfare, written on every document. So it's all by design. Socio-education, to confuse you, into a marketing strategy and into a slavery system where you do what you're told, because the voices will tell you what to do, and you do what you're told. You conform and comply, but you can't think instinctively. So the REL comes into your body and becomes the parasite in your brain that controls your whole mechanism and conducts to an outside influence. The REL, born in history, the REL is the parasite. The REL was first seen coming in methamphetamine. So the kamikaze would take their own life to take yours. That's how evil son can become with the REL on methamphetamine. Hitler used it to create superhuman abilities. The military used it to create superhuman abilities today. Right? The most superhuman abilities that they use is this product. It's called MBK, methylbenzoketone. And that REL goes into their mind, controls their mind, and there's a parasite, which is called the black goo in the Matrix. Right? And Keanu Reeves could break out of the black goo, which is the parasites. It's the REL, the dark REL. It's the goo in the Matrix, the black goo, right? And he breaks free from it because he can. He can break free from all of it, all the parasites. He has the power to do that. You have the power to tune out the program. You have the God-given power, when your principality's in the right place, to tune right out, so that no weapon formed against you prosper, because you have a higher dimension. You have a higher ability with the 8 codes of righteousness: loyalty, honor, respect, modesty, reservation, encouragement. They are your moral tools. They are your sword that gives you the power. That gives you the power, right? When you think instinctively and you have faith in the outside influence, the picture tells you 1,000 words. It's right here next to your face. Can never lie to you. God's right there with that power. And people don't believe in it. They wouldn't have a clue. They have amnesia. That means they don't know. They don't know any better. They do not know what they do. That's why Jesus said that on the cross. We have the biological evidence to prove this, and so they started research. Dr. Bruce Lipton says the placebo affects 10 times more power than your reality by thinking outside the mind, because you're programmed, like the Matrix says. It's a documentary. Joe Dispenza talks about aging process and stopping the aging process with those tools that you have coded in your DNA. Jordan Peterson, the biggest psychiatrist right now, using the Bible to go back to our principality and our power, talks about moral instincts. Went up the breathing program, who's won a Nobel Prize. Through a breathing program, ice cold showers and ice bath activation, recreates the molecules that die between 7 and 15. To recreate by thinking instinctively and going back to the moral state. He's won a Nobel Prize and 27 Guinness Book of Records for superhuman abilities. Pay attention to what I'm saying to you. There's no scientist in the world that's telling you this. It was in 2008 on ground level. I worked with Jeremy Griffiths and the top bowlers in the whole world and brought the cure of the human condition to humanity for the first time in human history. I can explain it better than everyone and every single parasite, and exactly everything works better than any professional in the world, better than any scientist or biologist in the whole world, with simplicity. People that listen to me has been watching these people, listening to Jeremy Griffiths, reading the book Freedom with a perfect explanation and said, wow, Kim, I cannot believe it, but your words is every single thing explained in this book biologically. But you do it even better. Now, why can I do it better than he can? Because I have the experience, wisdom, and knowledge. You see, I've been living in a time where time stands still, life preserves. While you've been going flat out into nowhere, I've been sitting back watching you for 60 years in a time where time stands still and life preserves. My DNA preserves with evidence. I know how to create the molecules. So that's why cellular study research has proven we can do this, because my DNA led to this evidence. And I'm the first person in the world ever to bring the cure of the human to humanity, even though he's given the credit, because you will only follow biologists. You would never listen to someone like me. You would never listen to me. But it's moving the world transformation movement with 15,000 top scientists in the world on every platform. And they only know with their tools and their education and their programming. They don't know what I do because they cannot master their mind the way I can. They're not a gnostic mastermind. Now, do you think it's a coincidence that the number one problem in the whole world today is the human conditioning and post-human states born in revelation? And it's been the number one problem with the voice in our mind, declared on documents by the top biologists in the whole world. It's the climate problem. It's the primary problem of climate. You strip from your sixth sense, right? And we consume too much and we think too much. And we have voice in the mind, ultimate design, mimic extinction by design, on a marketing strategy, on reverse psychology. Do you think it's a joke? It's not a joke. But 99% of people avoid this and laugh and giggle and say, oh, no, not me. So they'll never gain anything. They'll keep thinking mentally in the 5 sense world and trapped in their mind. Because everyone's trapped in their minds to one degree or another. But what mindset do you want to use? What do you choose to use? Do you choose to give consent to the devil and the voice of the mind? Or do you choose to give consent to God and your biological genes, to use natural matrix to go back to your primal state? Resurrection is going back to your primal state. The world transformation movement is teaching the resurrection to go back to the primal state. We're not just teaching you very clearly with 3 simple words. It's about believing, it's about love, and the rest of the world's full of BS, because it is. They discovered that. They discovered everything in the world's BS. Completely inverted back to front reverse psychology. Every tool you use is inverted because of this reason. This is the primary problem of climate. This is revelation, post-human stage. To resurrect humanity is to go back in the primal state in the image we're created in the Bible. So the last 7 trumpets, I want to make something clear to you about the last 7 trumpets in the Bible. We will lose 1/3 of our fauna. Well, when Australia burnt 6 countries in Africa, Amazons, and 4 countries in Asia, we lost 38% to burn all our fauna. We're going to lose 50% of our animals. We've lost 50% in the last 50 years of all living species on Earth. All living animals. We're going to lose 1/3 of our ocean and fish. We lost 1/3 of our ocean and fish 7 years ago. We're going to have lots of blood, right? Blood coming out of the water and heat coming out, killing the fish. 42 volcanoes through the Ring of Fire, right? With lots of lava, you would see as blood in the ocean, killing a lot of fish. That's already happened. 3 volcanoes under the Thighway glaciers and the corkscrew let go, and the ocean's coming up 20 feet over the next 7 years because it's melting with a torch underneath it. The inner core of the planet is heating up. The frequencies are changing the planet, and inner core planet heating up in every planet through the whole solar system, including the sun. Including the sun. So they said, oh, we didn't know it's from the inner core of the planet and it's happening throughout the universe. So it's not just us. It's also caused with an outside influence on our reality. And that's been speeding up for 150 years. And we know what's coming. It's called Planet X. We used to say for 25 years there's a black hole out there because it got bigger and bigger and bigger every year, so it's a black hole getting bigger. We discovered Planet X, okay, and it's all designed and written down on all the documents for NASA, Planet X. Planet X is in fact a black hole, so it wasn't a black hole. But what do we know about this for 25 years? We know it's getting bigger and bigger, which means it's coming closer and closer straight for us. Now, there's a lot of biblical history about a planet called Nibiru, a black star, a dead star, and that's what they classify as Planet X, as a dead star. That comes through here every 11,000 years and have a catalysm event. Mammals were found all over the earth, right, frozen in ice, going around in circles with their tusks. And that's what happened in Australia with 550,000 cattle in 2019, going around in circles and dropping dead. Okay, 80,000 horses, 2,000 camels. 550,000 cattle and camels in Canada 6 months ago, the same thing. 650,000 sheep in the Middle East, the same thing, dropped dead. Videos all over with animals going around in circles on farms, right, losing their motor skills. Birds falling out the sky, losing their motor skills. The same syndrome. The same syndrome. The same zombie virus. Losing their vertigo, amnesia, concussion. The same thing we're watching happen to people all over the world, with millions and millions of people unreported. Billions. Over 2 billion people suffering this. Some people's coming here telling me it's happened to them 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times in different locations. Unreported. So when you put all this together, you come out with the same conclusion with every single thing. It's an outside influence from another dimension and a parallel world. And they even tell you and laugh in front of your face without you even realizing it. So there are two different dimensions that has a profound effect in reality. Timeline 1, timeline 2. A lot of people see in the looking glass and see in the future with two different timelines. Those that have visions and dreams with one of them, it's going to have a catalysm event because they're seeing their future. Those that see a timeline where everything is perfect, timeline traveler 227, I am legend, the promised line in mathematics, they're seeing nothing but fantastic. We know that when this catalysm event comes through and all the magnetic fields change and everything, right, they also know that there's going to split two different dimensions and parallel worlds as this planet comes through, and it's going to throw everything out of whack so that Apophis will hit directly on Earth in 229. Right? They tried the stimulation a few months ago to see if Apophis was going to hit, and they fired nuclear warheads in the stimulation, and it didn't work. So they put up Space Wars, was a design 40 years ago to hit Apophis, because they knew it was going to hit. So when that stimulation went through and they lived in brainlocked and I told you, I know it's not going to hit for 100 years, it's because they freaked out. And then they sent 2 missiles immediately towards the Apophis, the god of creation and destruction, god of wrath of God. They sent 2 missiles immediately when they realized it was going to fail. They were planning to send it in 2 years. They presented them immediately. And then they sent 2 more a month later. And they're going to continue to send them and try to break up all the pieces with radar guided missiles. And it's a fact. So Apophis is going to hit in 229. It's a fact. They know that. They knew that 45 years ago. That's why they set up Star Wars. We knew that back then. Now no one believes in it. We knew about Planet X being a black hole that was in fact a planet coming straight towards us. Now no one knows about it. They don't believe in it. There's all misinformation all over the world. A lot of people believe in flat Earth, yet dimensionally it's a sphere and it's a flat Earth on a flat plane psychologically, mentally and literally. But outside influence is a sphere, and that's written in all the old history books. Now everyone believes in flat Earth because they think mentally and they think literally all the time, and they're all wrong, especially America. They're the ones who believe in all the psycho programs, misinformation the most. Free psycho programs fall into every single rabbit hole because they think mentally the most with the highest and worst DNA, highest death toll and highest zombie apocalypse in the whole world's America. They die the most from the vaccinations, COVID-19. They're the most mental society that shoot each other, right? They put homeless people in jail forever. They put armed robbers in there for 60, 70 years. They put people in for murder in there for 500 years. They have the death penalty. I mean, they're insane. The whole population then is mentally insane with their Hollywood spits and the American dreamers. They're Babylon, man. They're the most fucked up people that fucks up the whole social media platform. They're the biggest lies in the world. And they have 7 million people living on the streets on $2 a day that are instinctive. And believe me, the instinctive people knows the rest of them are completely mental. So many people from American street levels seeing what's happening in the street with fentanyl and the RAL coming through their skin 30 years ago and watching the parasites come out, they're more onto this than what most of the normal civilization is that lives in psycho programs. The world tells you that graphene oxide is deadly and dangerous. Well, 2,000 scientists were convicted in 2019 for creating climate denial reports. Now, if you created climate denial reports, you go to jail for 100 years for deceiving the whole population. They got a little fine and keep on manipulating. That's all they get. Danske Bank in Europe, 2 money laundering case, right, of 250 billion euros, right? You know, that's like nearly 350, 400 billion dollars, right? 2 money laundering cases. The bank got a pissy little fine. No one got arrested, right? Okay, and out of 80% of the money they made, they get about a 130 million dollar euro fine. 130, no, sorry, I got that wrong. A billion kroners. A billion kroners is in fact like, it's only about 90 billion euros. That was the fine. They made 80 billion and they only get 90 million fine. They made 80 billion. So they get a pissy little fine, no one gets arrested, right? Every single time they do, these are the 2 biggest deceptions in the world, right? 3 of them, okay? You were flourishing money in 1980 and surplus was through the roof, right? No one had to live in poverty by 220. Bill Gates and the CERN machine opened up, right? With the Hive on his program on 160 countries with the biggest scientists teaching methamphetamine in all this program. The Hive, Black Web with Fester, the biggest scientist from NASA, teaching 280 ways to cook meth in the underground world. Bill Gates set up the Hive in 160 countries. Bill Gates took over capitalism and mobilization. Bill Gates got the same 160 countries to take everyone's tax money. And they spent $37 trillion building the CERN machine, 2,700 kilometers long, 27 kilometers long. 37 trillion till it was 8.5 billion euros. They're liars, man. We knew that back then, that it was $37 trillion. All the surplus money from every taxpayer money from 160 countries that caused the deficit and the bankruptcy and breaking the whole financial system in 2008 because they always knew the future and didn't care. And that's why they got trillions of dollars and you got nothing. With offshore accounts and they don't even pay tax. And when they donate money, like Bill Gates donates $20 million, it's 100% tax deductible and you pay for it. Jeff Bezos doesn't pay a rent cent tax. Why do you think they're all building underground bunkers? Why do you think Bill Gates bought a boat that's fully shut in with every facility on it, but completely closed in without oxygen? They can create their own oxygen. Why do you think Jeff Bezos is building a house in the ground and tunnel? Why do you think the military is going underground? Why do you think preppers are going underground? Why do you think the richest people in the world is going down to the bottom of Australia and Tasmania? Because it's on documents, on the front page of the paper. Why do you think the Pope's moving $2.3 billion in Australia? Why do you think they tell you flat earthers wheels so that you don't know they're building the dry valleys and been building there for 20 years? Building cities in the dry valleys, right? Dry valleys all over the Antarctica, where it's drying up, where it's land and they're building, where it's melting. And that's why they lie to you. Every single thing they do, they lie to you. Why do you think Australia in 2019 is abiding 30 million people in Australia and nobody's even going? Why do you think it's suppressed from every country and not Australia? Why do you think it's on the front page of Australia? And why do you think Australian Prime Minister went to the UN, right, in 2019 and said, we're leading mankind into salvation and we're using the oldest, wisest civilization on the planet when the new world begins in 247? Why do you think these plans are being implemented in Australia from 247 agenda onwards? Why do you think Pine Gap Area 51's in Australia with the biggest quantum computer? Why do you think NASA and CIS is there? Why do you think the biggest UFO thing in the whole world they're keeping from you is in Australia? Why do you think they're not telling you about the Min lights? Min lights, the orbs of light send white men into bits because they don't like white men. White men crazy. And everybody knows it. White men crazy. White men has RAL in their mind. White man has parasites in nearly every DNA study, right? And you can't even see them. They're tiny, right? But they're inside your body and they control your mind through methamphetamine, graphene oxide delivery system in all your drugs, graphene oxide delivered in so many things in all your preservatives and all your foods. And that's what you conduct with. Because you're not eating the right products and you can't think instinctively and think outside the mind. And I know this is dramatic, but those that think instinctively will tune our program and no weapon formed against you can prosper. Believe me, I know. I can repair my genes with DNA evidence to prove it. I've had parasites. I've had cancer. I've had everything to prove it. So you can prove it. You can prove I can beat it. And if I can beat it, so can you. That's what Winhoff says. That's what Jesus says. That's what we're saying. You can do what I can and more. But if you don't have faith in it to think outside the mind, you're going to suffer the consequences. Now, every scientist and top prophet in the whole world, top elect people, top scholars, I want you to listen. Plato's the greatest philosopher of all time, who studied the human condition and every single thing about the rel and about what's happening with all these parasites and these syndromes and mental behavior all over the world. Every scholar's been working on this for 2,350 years, and no scholar could work this out. No scientist, no professor. The most intelligent elite people in the world could never work this out. Then I come along and work all this out, the cure of the human conditioning, for the first time in humanity, being taught by Jim McGriff and the World Transformation Movement. I'm the one with the DNA. I'm the mastermind here. I'm the one creating miracles. I am the one who wrote the book that unfolds evidence perfectly from Nostradamus and Jesus Christ and Revelation onwards, with everything spot on to the T and the dots, with MR technology, right, that Hitler tried to create from Nimrod. Right in front of your face today. You think it's by coincidence? It's not by coincidence. So I want to tell you something very carefully. I'm the greatest philosopher of all time on earth, because I'm the only person on earth that ever discovered the cure of human humanity and can explain it better than any biology and scientist in the world. And that includes Jeremy Griffiths, right, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, using their high IQ in the sophisticated system. And that includes Jordan Peterson, the psychiatrist. I know he's going to think he's better than me, but he's got no fucking idea, because everyone's using the 5 cents worth of the world and 5 cents with their high IQ. And believe me, that's why they don't know any better. I have an outside influence that's far more powerful, and I can teach every human being on earth how to use it, because they can't think instinctively, but I can. So when you can't think instinctively, you have amnesia with a high IQ, and you're damn good at what you do, but that's why you're still rattling. That's why you're still confused, and that's why this must be understood right now in the time you're in. 3 people yesterday, very switched on, very awake like everybody else is, okay? One little email caused a confusion between 2 people. A confusion. Now one accused the other, and then a third one got involved with this, and what the third one found out was misinformation, because somebody misunderstood to begin with. The tiniest little breadcrumb over an email turned into a dramatic situation between 3 people, because the first 2 people did not sort it out correctly. Simply by asking simple questions and working out this email did not come from each other and had nothing to do with each other. But all of a sudden, one thought that the other was accusing them of sending the email, which it wasn't. It was a confusion. And then the third party got involved with this and thought, this is disgusting, that you're being accused for this, and that this person did that. But the person didn't do anything. And it was a misunderstanding. Now that person, one of the top people here, making videos, comes to me yesterday morning, the night before last, and sends me a message about this. So I presume that what these 2 people are talking about is disgusting when I hear the story. So I made a video yesterday, but I want you to listen very carefully. Wyatt made a mistake about an email. Jody received an email with a background check that had nothing to do with Wyatt. Now Wyatt somehow confused and thought that she did a background check on him. Okay? A great confusion. Okay? But then he was also twisted by believing that maybe she did a background check on him. There was a massive confusion here. The third party was told a third part story. That's Philip. Philip came to me in the great concern and took Wyatt's side, and Wyatt was wrong to begin with. Then I'm given total misinformation, and I become the whole biggest thorn of the problem here. Because I exposed a video yesterday morning about how they're behaving, how 2 people can't work something out that's none of his business. Then he gets involved with it and sends it to me and brings me into it and involves me. This is how families work. This is how everything works in your backyard, and I want you to listen carefully. A tiny misunderstanding turns into an explosive situation. Now, yesterday I disclosed all 3 of them in the video and what's going on, and how they all start their cat bitching and their cat fights, right, and behaving the way they do, thinking they're trying to help each other, but also spreading gossip. Gossip in the mindset and trapped in the mind, and using the same tools that we all use around the world. And you can see it in your own backyard, you can see it in your family, lovers and friends, and you can see they can't communicate. because they're using the wrong tools. And what you see here in this event of people that think they're awake is they're oblivious to what's going on. So yesterday I made a very powerful video and said, look at how people are behaving here regardless, right? And how this all unfolds. Now I'm giving a certain misinformation about Jody, thinking that Jody's responsible for this, because that's what I'm led to believe. And I can see the picture, right? But you see, there's something else going on here. When I expose this, I expose Jody, which means I am the worst one out of this adverse effect. What was starting from a misdiagnosis and a misunderstanding turns into a mountain into a molehill, goes on to another person and spreads the gossip. And this gossip turns into be a lie and misinformation. Then he spreads it on to me. Then I expose the whole media and put them on show in front of everyone about their behavior. And I give one of the worst bits of information to everybody by exposing this. So I became the worst pawn that spreads this to everyone. However, I take responsibility for my action, and I got a beauty because of this stupid problem that happens every day in our life that I expose in my videos every day. What I teach here is about these things that happens from the tiniest little things like breadcrumbs. And those little breadcrumbs has an adverse effect in such a way that if you observe this, you will observe that 1,000 things happens like this in your life every day. Now, I need to go deep here, and you need to pay attention with every tool you got, very carefully. Because in my video yesterday, I'm predicting the future. I'm using my progenitor genes, I'm using my mastermind to identify what's going on and what the adverse effects would be, because I knew someone was going to get awfully hurt by the end of the afternoon from this. So I make that clear of what the domino effect this is going to be and what this is really going to do to rip people apart and conquer and divide. By the afternoon when we discovered this thing, it left everybody speechless in shock. And of course, I thought 1 or 2 or 3 people might get very hurt here, but I didn't count on myself. So there's the evidence that it even affected me, and I became the worst thorn in this whole issue. I became the worst one. I made the biggest mistake here. However, that happened for a reason, because every single thing happens for a reason. Now, when something like this happens, a misunderstanding, and everybody's at fault, what do you do from here? How do you fix this? How do you rectify this? You want me to tell you? I want to show you the tools that God gives you and the tools that you have to think instinctively and the power that you have. You see, if I can cure the human conditioning, if I can bring down the highest stereotype cocaine, the highest gang killing, the highest violence, and make everyone work together, you should consider the tools I have that no one in the world has. So the adverse effect in my video is going to live to the greatest outcome, the greater good of humanity, the greater and more highly intelligent tool. So this little breadcrumb with a misunderstanding from an email turns into a mountain and rolls to where it is now. And it's responsible for this whole video and every bit of information I give you, because I want to show you something. This is the key point of this video, being trapped in your mind. So I know how the mind trap works and how easy it is to deceive people and how far it can go into your DNA with stress and anxiety and hurt people every day of your life. And it's all by design, and it is a reverse psychology engineering where people don't know any better. So I'm going to show you what you can do with something like this. I want the whole world to be really open up their eyes. I want the top psychiatrists and scientists in the whole world to open up their eyes and see what I'm going to do right now. This is the greatest identification, a simplicity, a simple little breadcrumb that's going to give you the adverse effects to understand. Now, I'm going to tell you something. This becomes the most important education in the world, to make you realize how a breadcrumb can destroy people and their family and conquer and divide, right, with their moral instincts and can't think right, because they can't think right. And this happens every day in your life with decisions you make. So Jody and Wyatt and Philip, this happened here in front of me, and it was meant to get me. right? It was meant to deceive me, but it didn't. It didn't deceive me. It gave me the greater tool to turn them into heroes and make you understand this needed to happen. People need to open up their eyes from amnesia and see how much they're controlled by the voice in the mind and trapped in their mind to use these tools, and how these tools is what I identify, and this is what I'm an absolute expert at. This is how I run the whole world. This is how I become so powerful that I knew what Bill Gates was doing, and I use the same tools, and I know exactly what the adverse effects are. And you can create karma to be a bitch or a blessing, and this has become karma that's a bitch, and I'm turning it into a blessing. Because when you identify this, any person that pays undivided attention to think outside the mind with what I just said is going to start breaking free from amnesia and discover something completely different. When I went up to my mum, okay, a lot of events happened in my life. I went through something very extraordinary. I'm not going to go into all these details. I'm going to get straight to the point. I went through some mythological event where I died and went to another dimension and sent back. With different tools, with a total different mindset, and mastered my mind beyond anything I can understand, anything I can explain to you. I went through a transformation in words you cannot explain. I went up to my mum and I said, Mum, listen to me. Do you know that you do this every day of your life, and this is the adverse effects from a domino effect? This is what happens in the future. This is the ripple effect that affects every single person in the world because you keep doing it, and you've done it your whole life. My mother got a shock because it's so simple, a little breadcrumb, just like an email and a misunderstanding. So tiny that she realized that she's been doing this her whole life, and she didn't even realize. She got a shock. She didn't know how to deal with it, right? She couldn't deal with it. Every family member and friend that I have, even my children, I'd walk up to them and tell them about 15 different things they do on a daily basis, or in their life they programmed and engineered into to use and normalize in the mind. And this is what happens all the time in our family and friends with Conquer and Divide. They got a shock. You have to see their face to believe. When you can tell people things like this, they get a shock. Things they've never seen before in their life, and they use those tools non-stop and didn't even realize what the adverse effects are. Had no idea. You see, this is something that no man on earth can explain to anybody, but this is how you see brain lock denial and species of denial. I can show you things and tell you things all day long, and 93% of people go straight into brain lock denial. People call me a conspiracy theorist and a liar and everything because they can't deal with it. And that's the majority of the population that acts that way. Yet everything I bring here with information is fully recorded evidence and every piece put together, unlike no other human being on earth. You should ask yourself, how come I know so many things that no professor in the world knows, or any prophet or any chosen or any scholar? How come I can work things out that every biblical, religious, spiritual, every scholar scientifically and biologically could never work out? No person, not even Plato, could work out. Not even Plato, the greatest philosopher of all time that every philosopher ever since has been looking up to. How come no one knows what I know and only I do? I see things you don't see that you do on a daily basis, and if I tell you, it scares you, and people can't stand that truth. People can't handle being around me. They can't stand me for a moment because it rattles them that much, and they'd rather be controlled by the mind, and they're totally inverted and cannot use their natural organic motives because they believe in the voice in the mind, and that's why it's declared by Jimmy Chris, 93% is behind the point of return. And trust me, not very many people are interested in going back to the primal state. They all think they know. Most freedom fighters and truth fighters are in the same basket. They think they all know. They're all controlled by RAL. They're all controlled by parasites. They all consume the wrong products and conduct to an outside influence with voice in the mind. And it's a fact. It's a fact of life. They have different forefathers' footsteps. They have different gods, and they believe in their own gods. Now, God designed me with the most powerful evidence ever recorded in modern history, right, on 6 international events, and some of the biggest miracles recorded in history, with 6 meters of documents of the biggest mastermind by the biggest think tank in the world. Trust me. Trust me. This is the evidence. The testimony of Dr. Reborn. This is solid evidence, right? So I'm telling you now, 2/27 yen date. They put up the New Climate Club. in 220 with an end date, and the new climate clock you see in a 2-minute video, they tell you that this clock's going to run to the 27th September. Now, I just want to give you some information about this. 27's embedded into anything. 27's a universal number. Stands for the Holy Spirit, Divine Light. Keanu Reeves, the magic, stands for 27, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, Divine Light. Okay, just getting information. On the 27th September 1999, it's reported you stripped from your sixth sense and post-human stage. They're the two signs because number 9, Libra, God created the 12 zodiacs. He created 12 disciples, 12 apostles, and 12 tribes of Judith. Okay? In the zodiac signs in China, there are 5 elements to each star sign. There are 60 characters. The rat is the king, right? With that personality. I've gone into a lot of information about this. The rat is the king. The metal rat is the 5th element. The 5th element is perfection. The 5th element in the movie with Lilo, she's Mother Creation. She's the metal rat, right? In the female form, Mother Nature. She's the olive tree. Keanu Reeves is a metal rat, king of all kings, number 27. The king of all kings is a metal rat because the metal rat is the king of all kings and the rat's the king out of 60 star signs. Enoch was a metal rat that walked with God for 360 years and was a Gnostic mastermind, wrapped it into the future. He walked with the angels, all the men lights in Australia. He walked with all the angels. He was wrapped it into the future and brought Jesus up to be perfect for 70 years' life. He knows resurrection. He stands for teaching and he stands for righteousness. So he brought up Jesus to be perfect with righteousness by using the right tools by 24. And Jesus broke free from amnesia and the reincarnation trap and talks about his bloodline. Then he takes 12 disciples and breaks them free from amnesia so they discover who they are and the tools they have. Right? So the metal rat, okay, in the Chinese astrology sign, Jesus went over to China and learned how to use his mind from a Gnostic mastermind, how to master his mind, the same as Bruce Lee. The same mastermind with the same 8 tools of righteousness that Enoch brought him over to teach, to master his mind. And then he went from a monkey to a metal rat. So he broke free from amnesia and became a metal rat, a king of all kings. And Enoch was a king of all kings, a metal rat. I'm born in 1960 as a metal rat. I'm born in the 27th September, the Holy Spirit, Divine Light. 9 is September. 9 out of yin and yang is think outside the mind. 9 is also, September is also the scales. The scale stands for justice. And the judge always has to establish the truth in the middle because you always live in your truth and he has to establish truth in the middle. And he always relies on the witness who sits on the fence, not far left, not far right, who's balanced with himself and in harmony. So it stands for the judge and the witness. The witness would teach the resurrection and you'll know with the tools. So book Revelation 27 is unfolding with 27-year war against the Antichrist from 220 to 247. And the collapse is 227 to 247. So we're in the 7 years before the collapse, right, on the new climate clock. Okay, and the clock we displayed until the 27th September. That's the Holy Spirit and the sign of judgment. And 27, right, is 27 kilometers along in the sewing machine. 27 signs with Peter Daszak to the WF to deceive us. 27 sign the form. 27 religions signing with the Pope with the WF. 27 is a sign. Corp 27 with a 7-year rest. Corp 27 is a sign. And 27 stands for the signs all over the world. You're in the post-human stage since 1960 in Revelation. Okay, the animals have died, the fires have happened, the volcanoes out of the water, and one mountain is going to spit a lot of fire out of it. The biggest volcano a couple of months ago ever in global history was outside Tonga, measured today with oxygen that's going to put a dust over the planet that's still to come, that's going to put the planet into darkness 1/3. That's happening now. That's coming right now. So that mountain's already blown in the ocean and that oxygen's beginning to change and a film's coming over that's going to change the whole world with all these volcanoes. So that cloud's coming. It's going to darken and dim the planet for a third of the day. Just like Revelation. Everything's happened already, man. You have no fucking idea. And the zombie apocalypse and people going to extinctions on every document in the world over the next couple of years. Right? They already know. They saw it in the looking glass. They saw the future. Now, I'm sorry to be the bear bad news, but no one can live in the truth. They can't handle it and they don't want to. They'd rather be in brainlocked tonight because they're possessed by the devil, recorded on documents, trapped in their mind. Those who think instinctively are those that have faith in their biological genes to use the natural muscles in the image you're created in God's image to have that power. So this information needs to get to every human being on earth. Okay? every scientist, every professor, and you'll see that every single thing I say matches up perfectly. Everything perfect. And no one's telling you. All the signs are here, buddy. Every single one of them. Now, remember this. The We're Not Breathing program, ice cold showers, Jeremy Christensen and the World Transformation Movement, thinking outside the mind. I can teach you this to tune out the program, right? And it's all about God. It's all about being in Christ's image, because Christ is our only Saviour. And I was developed by Christ, and all my date of birth and every design is there to prove it. My son and my grandson's born in the 27th, and God created the most powerful international events recorded on documents on these 2 days in modern history. It's a sign. Have faith in who I am, why I'm here, and I am the witness to resurrect humanity back in their primal state.